Okay, ma'am. We can start now. Hello.
Yeah,
We can start now, ma'am.
sure. So hello everyone and welcome back for today's session. Yesterday we saw variables, data types, operators, um, if-else conditions, for loop, while loop, the way you can write the content. We also saw with respect to arrays and the way you can create an array. We also understood the scanner and the way you can take input using scanner. So this is all done and we did that yesterday. Okay. Now for today, if you would see the code that we have written for a bank where I am taking account numbers and I am taking the balance. So if you would understand what are these, account number is the account number for some account holder. So can I say I may be having an account. I may be having an account holder. That account holder has an account number. That account holder has, say, balance, right? At the same time, the account holder, so we created two arrays to store the account numbers of the account holders and the balance. We may want to store other information like the name of the account holder. We may want to store, say, for example, address of the account holder. We may want to store, say, some identity proof. So whenever you create an account, you also need some identity proof. And there can be so many things that you may be doing it when you work with these. 1 minute, I'll just hide. It's irritating. So now I want to store account number of all the account holders. I need to store the balance. I need to store the name. I need to store the address. I need to store the identity proof. What will you do? You cannot go on and create array of account numbers, an array of balance, an array of name, an array of address, or an array of the identity proof, which is definitely going to be very tedious. It doesn't make sense. In that case, Java offers a construct called as classes. Class is nothing but, so again, a class is nothing but, you can say, hold on. A class is nothing but a structure for any record that you want to store. Now, record can be anything. Record can be you want to store the information about books, about student, about employee, about account holders, about patient, about doctor. It can be anything. So what I'm doing is I'm going to create a structure where I specify if anyone joins or wants to open an account, they have to provide this information. So you can also understand in a way when you go online or when you fill in a form, whether it's online or offline, doesn't matter. When you fill in a form, you have a structure of the form. That structure of the form provides you with what information I need from you. Now that information will be different for different person, but the structure remains the same. So class is just that. It provides you with a structure. And what will happen is for different account holders, there will be different information. So let's see this in action, how it works. So what I'm going to do is under the SRC package, I'm going to create a new class and I'm going to put inside a package called as oops. And the class name will be account holder. What I need to do is I need to be able to specify anyone who joins or who wants to open an account in my bank is an account holder. And when they join in, they have to provide their name. They have to provide their address. They have to maybe say provide their phone. They have to maybe say provide their email. There will be some balance with which they open an account. Okay. If you want to take account ID, you can. If you want to generate the account ID, you can do that as well. We will see all that stuff. That means anyone who wants to open an account needs to provide me with these information. That is what a class does. Now we know that when we are taking a name, it has to be of type string. So I will say string name. When I take an address, this also has to be of type string. So again, that will be a string. Then I want to take phone number. Generally, we take phone number as string. It's your choice. You want to take long. So say, for example, we'll take long so that we have a different data type. So that way we also know that, okay, fine. We can have in a class variables of different types. Then when you want to have an email again will be of type string. Then you have balance. Now balance can be in decimal, so that will be double, right? And then every account holder will have an account ID, and maybe I say that as a string. So I have string account ID. So this is a simple class. A class has name, address, phone, email, balance, account ID. Any account holder has to provide these information to be able to open an account. Now, if I want to see how I can provide data, so I will be saying again a new class, and I'll say test account holder. And this test class will have a main method. Okay. Now, I'll just open this on the side. And I'll close all of the windows. We don't need them right now. So we can focus on only two. Now, this account holder has name, address, phone, email, balance, account ID. Now say Shalini wants to open an account. That means my account should exist. When I open an account, I provide my information and then the account will exist. The way you specify that in Java is you need to create object of the class. And after you create the object of the class, provide values. Now, create object of the class and provide values. So to create an object syntax is the name of the class, which is account holder, followed by the object name is equal to new and account holder. So what I did, there is one customer. So maybe I can say customer one. So there is one customer who is basically going to open an account. That is where I say account holder customer one equals to new account holder. Of course, if I go ahead and if I say this out, C1 dot say account ID. If I just do this and if I run this, it's null because account ID is of type string. So all these variables which are defined inside the class are called as instance variables. All the variables defined inside a class are called as instance variables. And when I create an object, all the instance variables have a default value. If I create a local variable inside a function and I did not assign a value, and if I try to print the value x, it gives me a compile time error saying local variable x may not have been initialized. So local variables are the variables which are inside a function, and you have to mandatorily provide a value to them. You have to initialize them. But when you talk about instance variables do not require an default value because they already have some default value. And we saw account ID is null, balance is 0, email will have some email, phone will have a phone will have 0, address will be null, and name will be null. So definitely I want to assign some values. So I would be saying C1 dot account ID say is equal to A1. Then C1 dot, suppose name is equals to shallow. Then I can say C1 dot address is equal to say some address. Then C1 dot email is equals to, for example, dummy.com. I can say C1. So C1 is the object of the class which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instance variables using the object C1. So what is C1? C1 is object of type account holder. Okay. So C1 is object of type account holder. And when I say C1 dot, I'm able to access all the instance variables of the class. The account ID, name, address, email, phone. Phone is long. So maybe I would just specify some value. I'm not checking in with the with anything. So I can just say C1 dot balances, say for example, 1000. Okay. Now I can print. So I can say sysout and C1 dot name. Now this time when I print name or when I print account ID, it will not be null because I've provided a value to the instance variables on the object. So you can see C1 dot name is Shalini. So this way you can create account holder, you can create book class, you can create author class, you can create doctor class, you can create employee class, you can create student class. You can just go ahead, you can specify what information you want for a patient, for an employee, for a student, for an employee, and so on. And then you can just create the object of the class, and just using the dot operator, you will be able to access the instance variables. Advantage, I can create one more object that is for customer 2, and the customer 2 will have its own values. And maybe say balance is 5,000. And if I say C2, so C2, sorry. C2. And if I run, so I have now two customers, one with the name Shalini and one with the name Ajay. So what it gives me is, it gives me a structure to be able to store information about a record or an entity or an object as opposed to arrays, where if I want to work with arrays, I will be having name, address, phone, email, balance, account ID, 6 arrays separately. Plus, the problem with the arrays is the array size once created, I cannot increase or I cannot decrease. Now, I cannot have only 100 customers or 200 customers. I will be having n number of customers, right? So we will see tomorrow what we can do apart from arrays, which provides you with a dynamic structure. But today, because we have learned arrays yesterday, we will be focusing on arrays only today. And again, learning the concepts of object-oriented programming in Java. Okay. We add double at balance because balance can be in decimal values. It can be, say, for example, I got some interest of 4% in a year. So when you add 4% or 5% to the amount, it may come in decimal values. Hence, the balance is double. Okay. Now, say, for example, I have a scenario where I want to check. So my bank doesn't allows a zero balance account. So when I'm initializing the value for the balance variable, I cannot make it 0. If it is 0, I need to be able to write some conditions for that, right? I need to be able to write some logic that says that, hey, fine, you know what? You cannot put balance as 0. Plus, you can see I'm all every time taking the object name dot the variable name and initializing the value. So let's then get introduced to functions. What are functions? They are nothing but reusable block of code. So functions are reusable block of code. Now, how do you create functions in Java? The way that you create functions in Java is they have access specifier. What is access specifier? As the name suggests, access specifier provides with the access level of the method or a function. By default, generally, functions are declared as public. So they should be publicly available for anyone to use. Hence, the access specifier that we will be defining will be public. Followed by, then there is a return type. If in case a function doesn't has a return type, it can be void. So I will be saying void as a return type means a function does something, but it doesn't returns a result. There is no output to be given to the caller. It just takes it, processes, and done and dusted. So you can assume these functions like suggestion boxes, which take the input, you provide your suggestion, done. There is no response which is given to you. If suggestion is valid, that will be implemented. Okay. Next comes the method name. So what my method name will be? So I want to be able to have a function that basically provides me a way to initialize the values for these instance variables and also apply some business logic. So I can say set account details. Okay, I can do this. Now, in this function, I want to set the details for the variables, all these variables. So I can say account ID is 1. I can say for example, okay, my address, then maybe I can have email. And what is remaining? So that's it, right? So we have a function that basically initializes the values for the variables. Advantage, I don't have to write all this, and I can just say C1 dot set account details. Likewise, I don't have to say all this, and I can say C2 dot set account details. So I write it once and I reuse it n number of times. But the problem is now both the account holders have the same value, Shalini. We will see the solution for the same, but okay. Your question will be answered, Ishwar. Hold on to it. We are not going to cover exception handling, Thavan, so I won't be covering that. Now, I don't want fixed values, right? The values should be whatever. So for account holder C1, the values of the account holder C1. Account holder C2, the values of the account holder C2. How do I do that? Then the functions can also take input. Functions can also take input in the form of arguments. So I can specify, so I need to provide what? Name, address, phone, email, balance, and account ID. So I can provide name. I have email. Then we need long phone. We need double balance. We need string address, and what else is remaining? String account ID. Okay. So I'll just make this as N, E, P, B, A, and the account ID. So then I can replace this with account ID, this with N, this with P, this with address, this with email, and this with the balance. Now, of course, this throws an error. No, that's not constructor. That is just a function, a simple function that takes 6 parameters as argument and is used to initialize the values of the variables inside the class. Okay. Now I will have to provide the values. So the signature that it takes is, it has name, then it has the email ID, then it has the phone number, then it has the address. Okay. Then after the address, now there is balance that's remaining. And then I'll have the account ID. Okay. So we have set the 3 values. Likewise, here also I will set. Suppose it will be Ajay. Suppose then it will be Then we need to provide the phone number. Actually, the Zoom entries are coming in, so it's getting, I'm not able to type in. It's always getting stuck. That's it. Now, if I run, you can see now I'm able to, so the function is able to take the inputs, and with that, it is able to initialize the values, and I'm able to access those values. Great. So that is how the functions are used, and the functions can take input. Now, I also want to apply some business logic. So I would say if balance less than equal to 0, in that case, I would want to print a message by saying cannot balance cannot be 0. Now, this statement has to be in the first because this is my actual condition. And if it is 0, then I can just say return, because I don't want it to go ahead and initialize anything. Balance cannot be 0. Hence, account cannot be opened. So you can't open an account with a 0 balance. Fine. So I have 5,000 over there. And suppose I provide 0 over here. If I run, for the first one, it creates. Sorry, if B is less than equal to 0. So for the first one, it creates Shalini. And for the second one, balance cannot be 0. Hence, account cannot be created. And there is no name exists because the object was never created. Okay. So I can write the business logic in the function. But can I do this? Tell me. I created the account C1. And then later on, I say C1.balance is 0. Can I do this? If I do this, and if I go ahead and print C1.balance, it's supposed to be 1,000. See, but I don't want a 0 balance account. What is the problem? I'm allowing access to these variables directly. Hence, always the variables are created private. Now, if the variable is private, no one from outside can access the variable. So in that case, it provides with security because the variables are private. They cannot be accessed outside the class. And the only way that you will be initializing the values is via this method. Because then I have the logic over here. And because of this logic, I know that my code is protected. And again, you can see I cannot access C1.name, C1.balance. And here also I cannot access C2.name directly. Now, what can I do to be able to get the values for the customers or the account holders? I can create one more reusable function which can return a string and which can say get details. Now, this method returns a value as opposed to this method, which did not return a value. It takes input. It doesn't take input because it has nothing to do with the input. And then I can say return name. That will be the name of the customer. And maybe say balance and the balance of the customer. If you want to return any other values, the account ID, address, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just printing 2. And then here I can directly say C1 dot get details. And because this function returns some value and the type of the value is string, I have to store the returned value in some variables, and then I can print that value. Likewise, I can do it for customer 2 as well. So then I can say here c2.getDetails, and if I run, okay, so name Shalini, balance 5,000. Balance cannot be 0, hence account cannot be opened. And you can see there is no customer with that name and definitely no balance for the same. Okay, so we can create class, instance variables in a class, functions that provide some business logic, and the function within a class only has access to the variables of that class. That is how we provide security. And in that case, no one can go ahead and modify the data from outside. If they have to do, they have to do it via some method only. Okay, then okay. Now, next is, so if I want to initialize the account holder, right, you would see there is a round bracket over here. If there is a round bracket always represents functions. So you would see system.out.println round bracket, scanner sc.nextInt round bracket. So when main round bracket, whenever there is a round bracket, it basically represents functions. If the account holder has a round bracket in the end, there must be some function which is getting called. That function which gets called on the object creation is called as constructor. So what is a constructor? It is called on the creation of the object. So let's see if it gets called. So I can have, now constructor also has rules that it has to be, name has to be same as the class name. Only then it is a constructor. Otherwise, it's a normal method. So you can say this account holder is now a constructor. And if I print, and if I run, so the constructor is called twice when the moment I create the object. So if I comment out this, So you can see I have nothing but, so now this I guess would make sense if I put it like this. And I'm just creating object of account holder. So I'm creating two objects, C1 and C2. There's nothing else. If I go ahead and run, still you will see the constructor gets called. So constructor gets called the moment you create the object of the class. Okay. Now, I'm not covering exception handling. I'm using Eclipse that was mentioned last year. Sorry, that was mentioned yesterday in the YouTube session. You can watch the recording to see the installation steps. So I'm using Eclipse as an editor. So it is Eclipse. Okay. I will not be covering exception handling. So yes, we are not going to cover that. Now, here you can see that we create the object. And when I create the object, I'm able to call the constructor. So constructor can be the correct place for me to initialize the values. So instead of having a separate function and then calling that function, we can have a consistency and standard. So I can pass in the values over here and I can just move this all business logic inside the constructor and I can just comment out this method. So I don't have a need of this method now because whatever the job method was doing, now it is done by my constructor. And from here, then I'll just copy this and I'll paste it here. Likewise, and I can paste it over here. So now I don't have to remember a separate function. This is the best practice that we follow. That is the standard that we do because that's how everyone understands, okay, fine. Constructor is nothing but used to create an object and to be able to initialize the values for the instance variables. So constructor name has to be same as class name. It is automatically called when the object of the class is created and its purpose is it is used to initialize the data members, or you can also call them as instance variables of the class. So the main purpose of the constructor is to initialize the object for the values for that object. That is the main purpose. And for that, the name has to be same as class name. It is also case sensitive. So I cannot have this A as small. It will not work. Okay. So fine, done and dusted. My account holder object is created. But don't you think I also need a way? Now, when I open an account, generally name, email, phone address doesn't changes frequently. That's something that remains constant once you initialize. And without these, you cannot open an account. But balance is something which you would be changing frequently because you will be withdrawing or depositing or doing some transactions. So I also need to have a way to update the value for just one property, which is balance. To do that, Java provides you with the concept of getters and setters. So we will see setters first because we have a requirement to be able to update. So let's see setters. Setters are basically used to update the value. Okay. So the syntax. Now this is not a rule. It is a convention that we follow. So for the setters, the convention is, it is public Setter is setting the value, not returning, hence void. Set is not a keyword. That's a convention that we use. I want to set what? Balance. Because I'm updating the balance, I need with what value you want to update, right? And then I can say balance equals to the balance. Okay. I'm just updating the balance. Plus, I can then write the same business logic here as well because now it's a function. So because it's a function, I can have a business logic. So I can say, now no one can go ahead and access. So I can say, suppose C1 dot hence did not update. So if I go ahead and I say set balance to 0. Now you would see because I'm using functions and I've made the variables private, I'm able to provide the business logic. I'm able to provide the constraints, what I want. And accordingly, I'm able to check the conditions and only then decide if I want to update or not. Okay. This is how now I have written a function for setting the balance. I also want to write a function to get the balance because that is so common, right? We always want to check our balance. So to be able to check a balance, that is a get balance, there is a getter which is available. So the way the syntax of the getter works is, again, functions are public. They return a value, hence they're called as getter because they are returning balance and balance is of type double. I would say get again. I'm repeating get, set are not the keywords. That's the conventions that we use. What I want to get is the balance and I can just say return balance. So if I want to check the balance of my account, so I can say sysout c1.getBalance. Okay. So we have learned till now class, instance variables in a class, access specifier, public and private. What is the importance of private? Why you should make that so that your data is secured and they can be only modified via the functions in the same class. You can also imagine it this way. When you open your account in a bank, you are the customer, but you don't have the access to the lockers or where your money is kept. If you have a website, you have to first provide your credentials to say that, yes, that is you who is doing that something. And if you want to update your balance, there are functions via which you update the balance. And those functions have business logic, which basically provide with certain constraints. At the same time, if you are going offline to a bank and you don't go in the bank and say, you know what, I am an account holder in your bank. I have money in your bank. I have 50,000 rupees. I want to take 5,000 rupees because I know I have 50,000 rupees. I'll just go Barnin and just take out the money, 5,000 and go. Not allowed. You will have managers or clerks who will be sitting and who will be providing you with the functionalities and providing you with the services that you want. So you don't go and directly go and take out the money. You can access your money via the managers, via the services that they are providing. So you need to validate that yes, you are the account holder. You need to specify them what do you want. They will check everything. They will validate everything. So these functions then become like the manager, who is basically validating everything, and everything is valid. Only then it goes ahead and either withdraws the money or deposit the money or whatever it is. Okay. Likewise, you can create getters and setters for all the instance variables. So you don't even have to remember the structure. It's actually easy with editors. I can say source and you can see over here. And this is available with any editor that you use. IntelliJ, Eclipse, NetBeans, STS, Atom, VS Code. I've worked with all these editors and they all provide with the same features. So I can say here, right click, source, generate, getters and setters. You want the getters and setters for which properties? If I say all, it will generate the getters and setters for all the properties of the class. So if you are using an editor, you don't have to remember the structure because the editors take the responsibility of generating the getters and setters for you. Okay. Now, can you see something different in this code? Is that something which I haven't taught yet? Do you see anything that's different here? Yes. Yes. The this keyword, right? Now, why is the this keyword there? Whenever local variable and instance variable name is same, name is same, use this to explicitly access instance variables. Okay. So because this local variable name is a parameter and this name of the instance variable, because they both are same, hence you have to basically provide this keyword. If in case this was just n, then I can just say n and then I don't need to use this. Okay. So here I did not use this because I purposely specified the local variables or the parameters whose names are not same as instance variables, and I didn't have to use this. I can directly say, okay, fine, initialize the value for the account ID with the value that's provided over here. Likewise, here when I say for name, because I am using different variable, this is not mandatory. If you use this, will it give an error? No, it won't give an error. Just that usually you will see we have the same names. Now, why is it required is no, you won't say return this dot balance equal to balance. Now, why do we also provide the parameter names as the instance variable? See, if I go here and if I say I want to update, so C1 dot set. If you see, for all other setters, it provides string account ID, string address, double balance. So I understand what does that mean. But string email. But when I see N, I don't know what this N is. So whether the N is name, whether the N is something else, I don't know. But if I say string name. Likewise, in the balance, I should be using balance and so then you would see it becomes easier for us to understand. Now you can see it's account ID. Okay, it's address. Okay, the parameter requires balance. The parameter requires email. If only it's E, I don't know what that E means. Okay, E is expiry, E is email, or E is what? Again, name N, I don't know what the name is. So when I provide the parameters as a full-fledged names, in that case, it becomes convenient for the users of your application to understand what is expected. So this is also something which we actually highlight, and you have to follow that. Otherwise, it becomes, I mean, that's a best practice. So just imagine like this. You go to a library, and library has categories of books, and there are, so maybe say adventure, thriller, suspense, and so on. And they only write A, C, S, J, something. As opposed to when I write proper word adventure, when I write thriller, right? When I write tragedy, and when I write T, is T a thriller or T a tragedy? I won't understand, right? So that is what it may specify. So whenever you specify, you always specify a full-fledged name and don't worry about the space. Java takes care of that. So you provide an elaborated name as much as you can. So your variable names can be as elaborative. I can say here account holder name. There is nothing wrong in it. You can do that. As elaborative, as meaningful you create the variable names, it is easier for you as well to understand and for anyone else who access your application. So when you join a company, uh, you may be working on some existing project and providing some enhancements. Just imagine if the previous developer did not follow these conventions, it will be hard time for you to understand what do they mean. Okay, so naming conventions, following properly, having elaborated names for classes, variables, methods are very, very important. They have to be that way. Suggested, they should be that way. You are the developer. You can choose whatever you want, but that is what we always suggest. Okay. Now, we saw how to create a class. We saw how to create object of a class. We saw constructor. We saw getters and setters. Now let's move on to the next concept. What will happen if I say, so let me move all this, maybe say, so let me remove the clutter. So what I'll do is, I'll create one more class and I'll just remove all the clutter. I don't need all these, right? Perfect. Now, I'll remove this also because this was to show you how it works. Now tell me, if I say C1, what do you think the expected output, or what are you expecting it to print? What should it actually print? Any suggestions? So, to help you out, if I say int x equal to 10, and if I say sysout x, what will be the value for x? 10. Perfect, right? Thanks, Jamseti. So the value will be 10. When I say sysout C1, what should it print actually then? What are we expecting? Account holders information. If I run, it prints something like this. So it basically prints what package, that classes, And this you can say it's kind of um, a hypothetical memory address. You can say that. Yeah. It's kind of an address, not exact address because Java doesn't allow us to access the memory locations, but you can say it's kind of a memory address. Okay. I don't want this. I don't understand this. I want data. That is where then it provides you with a toString function. So I can leverage again the editor and I can say generate toString. I want all the information, name, address, phone, email, balance, account ID. If that is what I want, I can just say generate and you can see it generates the toString, which returns a string with the value of the account holder. So what does this mean is it provides with string string representation of the object. And then here I can go and I can say C1.toString. I'm not doing toString over here. So let's see what happens. The balance is 0. So let me put some balance, right? And let me maybe say, um, instead of comma, let me add /n. See the advantage of functions. I don't want this kind of an output. I'm modifying the output over here. And the moment I modify the output over here, it will be available to everyone who is using it. So functions are reusable. So now you can see here, account holder information, name, address, phone, email, balance. And likewise, for the account holder name, address, phone, email, balance. And if this is confusing, I can put a sysout to have a separation. So this is for account holder 2 and this is for account holder 1. And if you see in C2, I did not say toString. And still it was able to call the toString method. So if you are trying to print an object, it automatically calls toString. You don't have to explicitly mention, it is an implicit call. Okay. So that's what we have created. Account holder class, which has some variables, some functions, getters, setters, and toString. So this is a structure of a class anytime that you create. So for example, let's just create one more just to see. So tell me, what do you think the properties I want for a product, or maybe say student? What do you think? What all information I want for a student? Name, roll number, marks. I guess I'll just keep it to this much. Again, we should be making these as private. And um, So constructor, so you can see editors provide you with everything. Done so smoothly. I don't have to do anything else. The class is created. So constructor, getter, setter, everything. Now, first student, one, name, and total. Maybe say out of 500, so there are 5 subjects. I can create one more student, 2, and some value. And I say S1 and S2. And if I run, roll number now 1, name Seema, total 50. Roll number 2, name Mohit, and total 47. So I can go on and create multiple objects. Okay, so this was just to kind of a revision that we did with the account holder. So there were too many concepts that we learned. So I just wanted to show you a simple way. So student class. Now, if I have multiple account holders, I cannot just go on and create multiple objects. Okay, now let's learn array of objects. So now to understand array of objects, I'll first create a simple array and then we will create account holder array. So I'm going to create a string names array equal to new string. I want to store file. Tell me what will this print? Okay, so names of 0. What will, yeah, it will print null. That's perfect, right? So you have to understand that when you have an array of, so it's not a normal primitive, right? It's a string. So it is null. And now if I say names of 0 to lowercase, I want to convert the string to lowercase. Null pointer exception cannot invoke to lowercase because names of 0 is null. So it is very, very important that you understand whenever it is array of objects, there are 2 steps. One, creation of an array, and second, creation of every object in the array. So I will have to say names of 0 equal to so I will have to take every value from the array and then go ahead and initialize it. Okay. So this concept is very important to understand that when it's array of objects, when you create an array, it is null because the object is not yet created. So it's as good as I have a parking lot where I specify that parking lot will have 10 cars, but the cars don't exist yet. So only when a car comes in and parks, there will be a car at that particular parking lot number. So when you create an array, you are just creating a parking lot, mentioning how many cars can be parked. But if I say, okay, fine, go in parking lot number A1 and get the car, but the car doesn't exist yet because it doesn't exist. Hence, it will give there is no car parked. So it's kind of that. With this information, if I want to have 5 account holders, I will be creating an array and I'll say I want to store 5 account holders. Now again, if I print account holders of 0 will be null. And then if I try to access any function, it will give me a null pointer exception, right? So what you need to do is you need to initialize count holder 0 equals to new an object of type account holder with the values. So it will have some values. I'm just putting it some dummy thing over here. Okay. So maybe say name 1, address 1. What's that? So name email. Name, email, address, and now if I'll go ahead, it gives me A1. So with array of objects, it's very important. You have to create an array which specifies the space, and then you have to create the object to store in the array. Now it is 5, so I can go ahead and do this. But if it is 500 account holders, you cannot go on and say account holders 0, account holders 1, account holders 2. Okay. In that case, I can use loops. So to be able to initialize, I'm going to use a scanner object. And I will be having a loop. And here I will be saying enter name, balance, enter phone, and enter email. So this will be name, this will be address, balance, phone, and email. So what I'm doing, this will be, so I can say sysout enter details for account holder, say 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So this is for one account holder. I will create an object of account holder, initializing the name, phone, balance, email ID, and name, phone, is phone string. Let me comment out this. So actually it will be, leave this. Name, email, phone. So name, and phone is long. Okay, I created one object and then I can say account holders of I equal to A1. So when the loop runs, it takes input for account holder 1. It initializes the account holder object and stores at the first index. Again, the loop runs. It takes for second account holder, create the second account holder object and stores at the second position. If you want to display now, so you can say, so I'll just display it neatly so it will make sense. So I can say name, address, then maybe say email, phone, and say balance. So I can have a for loop and sys out. Sorry, I will get the account holder object from the account holders array, and then I will be saying get name. Actually, I'll comment out this for now, and I can just say OB just to show you that you do get 5 different values. So if I put this here and I run this code, and let me just take 3 account holders. If the code runs for 3, it will run for 5, it will run for 50 as well. So I go ahead and I execute, enter account ID, enter name, enter address, enter balance, enter some phone, enter email. Okay, then again details for holder 2. So A2, N2, A2, some balance, some phone number, email ID, and then again, okay, it's 3. So A3, enter name N3, address 3, some balance, phone number, email, done. So I have account holder 1, account holder 2, and I have account holder 3. So this is how then you create array of objects. I know I haven't done the validations for the phone number and email for the account. I've done that. I've not done that. You can go ahead and do that. That can be taken over next time. But right now, it's just more about making you understand how to create a class, how to create objects, how to create constructor, the importance of getters and setters, what is toString, um, uh, how to call the constructors, how to call the methods, importance of access specifiers, private and public, and how to create array of objects, how you can iterate, and what it means when you say array of objects. It is very important to understand, otherwise null pointer exception is something which is very common that you will get it. So you have to be careful with that. You have to understand how to create the object. It is very important. Okay, what will happen if I do this? Suppose I say and I just do this. No, sorry. Okay, if I do this, I add a default constructor here, and I say this, and instead of this, I say a1 dot set, then a1 dot set, then a1 dot set, then a1 dot set, then a1 dot set, and a1 dot set. Okay. So I have an account holder object created, and then I'm just initializing the values and storing that in account holders I. If I run it again, 1, I just enter 1, 1, 1. It works. Then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Where is 1 and 2? Where did 1 and 2 go? What happened? Because I created the account holder object only once, and I'm just updating the same object. This is something which is of very importance. You need to understand. Object creation is happening only one. That means there's only one account holder object, and I'm just calling setters and updating the values. So every time, so when I add, so if you see, if I print here, if I'll print here, you will find the proper output. Okay. So I say 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. See, name 1, address 1, done. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. You can see 2. Then 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. You can see 3. So it's not that it is not initializing. It is working. But then I'm constantly updating the existing object only. So initially it was 1, then it is 2. So that 1 became 2, and then the 2 became 3. So when you are working with array of objects, it's very important to understand that you always create new objects every time. This is very important to understand. Otherwise, it will not work as expected, and then you will scratch your head understanding what went wrong. And it won't be easy to understand that. Okay, so be careful with array of objects. You create an object new every time. And you have to create the object and then store that object in the array, because it is array of objects and not just array of primitive values. So that is something of importance that you have to take care of. Okay. So I'll just see for any questions if they are there. And none in the chat as well. Pavitra, we used get account ID to get the details of the account ID for that account holder. So I guess you're referring to this, or maybe I don't remember where I did. But get is used to get access to the get value for that particular property of the account holder. So get account ID to get the account ID of the account holder. Okay. So that is how it is, and that is what the array of objects are. So we did lots of things today. Class, constructor, getter, setter, toString, object creation, private access specifier, public access specifier. How do you access the data using the dot operator? Why private is important? Creation of objects, how the constructors are called automatically, and the constructors have the name same as the class name. They are case sensitive, and the only purpose of the constructors are to initialize the data members of the class. ToString method. ToString method is used to represent, to provide the string representation of an object. Otherwise, it prints just some hypothetical memory address, which we don't understand. We need to get the information. So we wrote ToString, and we don't have to call ToString explicitly. It is called automatically when you're trying to print the object. So it understands when you say in the println means you want to get the string representation of the object to be printed. Okay. So ToString is automatically called. We also understood array of objects, which is very, very important. It is used a lot. Tomorrow, we are going to modify the code for list. So, for example, here, I have to specify the number of account holders because it's array. So, in arrays, the size is fixed. Okay, I can do this. So, I'll move on this up and I can say sysout enter number of account holders and dot next, and I can provide n over here. But then once the array is created, done and dusted, when I run, I specified 2. Now the array will only take the values for 2 account holders. That's it, done. I want to be able to add more account holders dynamically. So arrays have limitations. They provide, they're always used when you know how many objects or how many values you want to store in the array. That is where the arrays are used. Tomorrow we will learn list. And yes, someone asked about composition. So yes, we will see composition as well tomorrow. We will have an hazard relationship. And the project that we will be seeing is this banking application only. So we will be customizing the same. The reason I took the same and I've been showing you from yesterday, so that you are with me. If I introduce a new project tomorrow, it will be confusing. So now you know that we have an account holder and we need to have more account holder objects and we need to be able to store the data. And then tomorrow we will extend this application to be able to provide the withdraw and deposit function with list. Okay. So we will see that tomorrow, and then tomorrow will be the last for the 3-day session of Java Bootcamp. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much, all of you, and have a good day. Do practice. You can watch the Vaishnavi, you can take the assignment. Do the same that I did for the account holder for student class. So we did not create array of students, right? Do the same for array of students. So if you want, what I can do is um, so you can take the student class and you can take the account holder, the code that I created as a reference. And you have to implement the same for the student class. I'm not able to paste all the content, so I'm pasting it in pieces. But you can take this as an example. Plus, you can watch the video recording again if you want to go through it, and you can complete the student array. Okay. So that's all from my side. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.